The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tobin Tonight, the podcast turned television show where we interview celebrities. Some of them you know, some of them you may not know, but that's the whole general idea of this, is that if you don't know them, you're gonna know them, and if they go on to become famous for something, you're gonna be like, hey, that name sounds familiar, where do I know them from? Oh yeah, Tobin interviewed them on this Tobin Tonight thing, and I knew Tobin before he was famous. That's if I become famous. If I don't become famous, you'll be like, hey, remember that time you did that show on Rogers and it was a total flop? And I'd be like, shut up, leave me alone, don't want to talk about it. I think we're doing okay. That being said, there are probably other people out there like, this Tobin guy? Don't like him. Anyway, besides the fact, that's something for my therapist. What I want to talk about is this week's guest. This week's guest in the episode is Raphaela. She's a Ottawa-born, I guess you can kind of say raised artist. She moved from Ottawa to Lebanon at a young age and then came back to Ottawa to pursue a degree in journalism at Carleton. Now that's got to be a good ad for Carleton, right? From Lebanon to come here to get a journalism degree. That's communications. We're not talking about that. But I think that's an interesting story, right? And we're going to talk about how that transitioned to her music career, and she wanted to come to Canada to pursue music. And we're going to get into all about that and much more. So check it out, because I'm done talking. You're done listening. Hit that intro music. You to really get it to hop off of here. Like I went on your Instagram and thought it was interesting because it's funny, because how I actually found you as the artist was Instagram does these sponsored ads, or sometimes you're just scrolling through and a song comes up, and then I was just like, South of France. I was like, okay. I was like, give me a couple minutes here, let me dive into this a little bit. And I was like, all right. And then I like that Instagram does that, because if it distinctively said, hey, this is a Canadian artist, blah, 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 I'd be like, there's almost like a stigma or whatever, where it's like, oh, like that's okay, it's a Canadian artist, great. Not that there's anything against that, it's just that people label it. So then I was just like, man, she got to be like from like Spain or like France, because she's singing about France. Then I was just like, hold on a second, like Canadian, and what was the other side, so people know?
Lebanese, actually.
There you go. And then I was just like, that's interesting, that's enticing. But like, were you born and raised like in Canada with that kind of heritage, or did you come over to Canada?
Yeah, well, I was born in Ottawa.
Okay.
Actually, my dad, he lived here for about 24 years, and then he got married, came with my mom to Ottawa, where she had me, and my mom didn't like Ottawa, so she really wanted to go back to Lebanon, so they left Ottawa when I was still a baby, maybe like 1 year old, I think. And I lived in Lebanon until I was 19. I would come back to Ottawa like for visits sometimes. See, I have a few uncles here, so would come and visit. And and I always knew I wanted to come back to Ottawa at some point. And so I decided to come back for university, and I've been here ever since.
So what enticed you, like, because I guess your parents are like, cold weather, don't like it, just not for me, but what enticed you to basically say, you know what, I can withstand it? Because I know there's a lot of list of what makes you Canadian, but you coming to live in Canada during winter, Canadian winters are bad enough. Ottawa winters are like really bad, but I feel like people like that makes her Canadian right there. She is now 100% Canadian. But what enticed you to make the journey back?
Yeah, well, there's a few reasons. Like, one of them was the studies, because I really wanted to do journalism, and I had heard that Carleton University has a really good journalism program here.
That's what I got there. It's not journalism, it's communications, but
okay,
it's from Carleton, yeah.
Yeah. So there was that, and then I also, like, this is a bit harder to explain. I have it on my website too, I think, where I say that I always felt like I'm Lebanese, but I never felt like I really belonged there. Like, I don't know, my personality seemed different, or I don't know, maybe not as warm as Lebanese people usually are, or I don't know. Yeah, I just felt like I didn't belong there, and I also, while I part of it was music too. Like, I didn't, I wrote English songs, and I read English books, and I watched a lot of, like, English movies, and so yeah, I just really, I don't know, like, I felt like I wanted to come here for like these various reasons, and I did. Like, I didn't come here specifically to. I didn't think like Ottawa was the place to pursue music, but because I wrote, English songs, I was like, well, it's a good starting place to find maybe,
Yeah.
people who will, resonate with what I write. So yeah, so it was like all of these different reasons combined together, that made me come here.
So are you still in like university now, enrolled in school?
No, now I'm actually, no, I've been done for 3 years now, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, I did a master's too, at University of Ottawa, and I got an MA in comms, uh,
nice.
and now I work for the Canadian government as well. So
Oh, okay. I was going to say you went to University of Ottawa. This conversation ends because if you know anything about Carleton, University of Ottawa, there's a rivalry. No, just imagine if I was just like, all right, it was fun, and just close this down. You'd be like, what happened? You'd be like, come on, Ravens, GGs, they don't get along. They're not supposed to. But
yeah, yeah.
I want to ask you, how did you kind of get involved in the music sense? Because I know you said you started writing songs in English, and you
Mhm.
didn't feel like you belong in, like, obviously get that, but why English and why music? Why wasn't it like, oh, I'm going to write poetry or I'll write a book? Like, you,
Mhm.
what drew you distinctively, like, hey, I'm going to be a singer?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I always liked writing. I liked writing essays. I was really good at that in school. So writing in general is, yes, something I always enjoyed. But for the music part, well, the first memory is my mom is an opera singer, and so when I was growing up, she was studying towards getting her opera degree, which she got. And so yeah, so it was always like a musical family, and she put me in piano lessons, voice lessons, things like that. But then, at some point, um, it kind of changed, where like I started, well, I mean, the first thing was I Taylor Swift was
Oh yeah.
becoming known at the time, and I remember hearing Teardrops on My Guitar, I think, was the first song I listened to by Taylor Swift. And I remember, like, oh my God, she has curly hair like me, and she plays the guitar. And so I spent like an entire summer in my bedroom teaching myself to play guitar. And then, for the songwriting, it kind of started when, it was like a crush in school, and who didn't like me back. I think I was like 13 or
Oh
14.
yeah, that's how it all starts. That's how it
Yeah,
always starts.
yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, Taylor Swift writes songs to make herself feel better. Why don't I try doing that as well? And so I wrote my first song, and I kept writing more and more and more. And that's kind of, yeah, where it all came from.
Nice. No, that's interesting. Now I want to ask you, because, like, how old were you when you came back to Canada?
19.
19. Okay.
Mhm.
But like, did your parents ever put up a fight for you to stay, or were they kind of like, you know what, she wants to go, it's good? Because like, I can imagine for someone like myself coming from Newfoundland to Ottawa, my parents really didn't care. I should really ask them why they didn't care. No, I'm not going to. But they knew I was going to live with my brother, so they're like, he's fine, he's okay. But it's still like only maybe what, like maybe a 3 hour plane ride or so away. Like if something really drastically happened.
Mhm.
But like, were they kind of saying to you like, hey, you you no, you're staying here, or were they kind of like, just go, you're being annoying anyway, you want to go back to Ottawa, just go?
No, I mean, they voiced their concerns. My mom more so, because like I'm an only child, and I guess leaving there and coming all this way here was difficult for her, but she knew it was good for me, and so did my dad, and they knew I'd be like coming here to live with family at first. Like I said, I have a few uncles here, so they were like, okay, well, she'll be safe at least, and also like Lebanon was not doing so well at the time. It's doing even worse now. So now they're like definitely made the right choice. Um, so yeah, I mean they've always been supportive generally of like what I want to do, and yeah, so they knew like I wanted to do the journalism program. They knew Carleton was great. So even though they were concerned, they still supported me. So yeah.
I know we went in a little bit out of the music side. Now, tell me a little bit, and I know you said about Taylor Swift being an inspiration, but like, essentially, when did you kind of drift out? Because I know artists try to find their own voice, their own kind of style. Like, when did you kind of go like, okay, Taylor, you're helpful, you got me here, but now I got to branch out a little bit. Like, when did that kind of light flicker to be like, all right, got to come up with my own stuff here?
Yeah. I think it happened naturally, like over time. I did stop writing for a while when I was doing university. I kind of didn't want to pursue a career in music at that point because I thought it wasn't realistic, and then, or I was told it wasn't realistic. But then, I got a degree in journalism and communication, and then you realize, well, you can do it on your own. You don't need like big record labels anymore and all this kind of stuff. Like people can do it on their own now. And then like COVID happened, and I was a bit lonely or not doing so well, like a lot of people weren't. And I kind of had a nap one day, and then I woke up from the nap and I was like, well, I'm gonna go buy like a little recording kit, and then I'll start recording covers, like weekly covers. So that kind of got me into starting the like the momentum again of getting back into it. I hadn't decided yet I was going to do my own stuff. Like I was like, I'm going to grow my YouTube channel, which didn't really happen, but it did help with towards like the recording side of it. And I started taking voice lessons again, guitar lessons again, which was interesting because I'm like, well, I was 25, well, why would I take lessons again? But then when you start, you're like, oh, wait, I still have a lot to learn. And especially on the voice side, like over the last 2 years, my voice has changed so much from what it was before. And
hold on, your voice has changed. Wait, did you sound like this at one point where it's like, hello?
My singing voice evolved.
Okay. I'd be concerned if I was meeting you and next minute it goes from like being deep level voice, and I'd just be like, that's not how she sounded on the podcast. No.
Like I was really inspired by Taylor, but and she's my idol, like forever and always. But her singing style is not always, or at least in her old songs, her singing style wasn't always the the most smooth or the most right way of singing. So so I by taking lessons, I realized how much more like I could give, and how much better my voice is than what I thought it was, with the right techniques and everything. And I started writing again, and I found a producer in Ottawa that I work with, that I worked with on my first 2 songs, and that I'm working with on my third one that's going to come out soon. And so with each song that I'm putting out, it's like it's taking a life of its own. And I'm liking that because they're not sounding the same. So so in that way, yeah, it's like I'm like, okay, well, now I'm really starting to find my identity. It's not set in stone yet, but it's like I'm learning as I'm writing, and and putting more songs out. So yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit of the fun aspect here of like the podcast, but like the South of France song, like tell me a little bit about how that came to be, because I know you recently posted about how well it's streaming. And like I enjoy when artists do that, because like there's a side of people that are like, oh, look at her gloating, or look at him gloating. I'm just like, well, you wouldn't know. And essentially that's good. Like, even if someone's like, well, it only has like 1,000 streams, I'm like, it's still 1,000 people that streamed it. Come on. Like, I gotta sometimes go back in my own, dictionary here of episodes, and I'll be like, that only has 400 plays. And someone's like, you have 400 plays? And I'm just like, that's true. Because 20-something-year-old Bryan probably thought, nobody's listening to this.
Yeah. I mean, like, I worked hard on the song. I worked hard on my plan to release it. So, I'm gonna show up for myself, because other people are not gonna do that. So yeah, when it gets 10,000 streams, I'm gonna post about it, because some people are gonna say, or are gonna think I'm gloating, but the people who are streaming it are gonna be happy because they played a part in that. So I want to thank them, and then those who don't want to hear it can just unfollow me. And, like I still, it's not that I don't feel insecure about it. I still feel insecure about, I need to post and I need to do this, and but yeah, like, I have to be. I am proud of myself. I think I'm gonna keep improving, but yeah, if it's gonna get streams, I'm gonna it's my second song, so getting on Discover Weekly for my second song is kind of a big deal, because I know that some people wait a long time before they are able to trigger that algorithmic playlist. So I was like super stoked about that. But yeah, and I'm just gonna keep working harder on my next one, so people should show up for themselves. Yeah.
So, like, if you were saying, like, because I know you mentioned earlier about like how people today, and I agree with you, so don't make it sound like I'm like, oh, he's going against me, but it's like, people can make it kind of like on YouTube, Instagram. Like, they don't really need a label, but like, I'm learning that kind of myself. Like, I used to post episodes all the time and clips, and then sometimes you got to sit back and be like, okay, like, it's working, but it's not working to where I want it to. So what can we change? Like, and you're like, I'm sitting there by myself going like, okay, what's going to catch people's attention, but like not trendy. Like, you still want it to be genuine. Like, how do you kind of focus on your marketing, and like, do you really go full on examining of like, okay, Monday at 2:00 is the best time to post. Tuesday, like, because that's where I'm to. I'm kind of looking at sometimes, and it's all guess and check, but it's worth a try. But there are sometimes I'm like, okay, why Tuesday at 11 is the best time to post, and then Friday at 2:00 it is, and then you're like, okay, or what about if I just post when I want to post? Like, come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a typical social media schedule, like, I think now I'm trying to post more often, 3 posts at least a week, just to stay consistent so that you're still showing up. And because if you don't, then you kind of, at least for me, I would fall off the wagon. And then
I'm on that wagon.
Yeah. Well, for the first 2 songs, the first one I had a big, like, Monday I'm gonna do this, Tuesday I'm gonna, and I did all that. For the second one, I did that as well, but less detailed. Okay. And now for the third one, I still haven't done it actually, but you kind of get used to the process, so I kind of know how it's gonna go. But yeah, like, I'm still trying to figure out what works best for me, because for example, for the second song, I kind of had these highly edited promo videos with like behind the scenes of my photo shoot, and then I found that just sitting and doing lip sync to my song resonated more with people than like the edited out now or okay. So yeah, that's kind of but I try to, with the marketing, I try to kind of cover all my bases, like the organic, the ads, the what else, trying to get interviews like this one, for example. So yeah, and that's where my journalism communication brain.
That's where the PR skills come, right? Yeah. We should probably both be better at this. We're like okay, we both have communication degrees, right? Yeah. Or journalism. It's like, how are we not this? How are we so bad at this? It's like, okay, yeah. We're learning. I want to end it off here. If you to play a random game
Okay.
random questions. Are you down for that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Let me get that ready here. Okay, so if you could live in a book, TV show, or movie, what would it be?
Well, I have to say it's a book called Book Lovers.
Okay.
So a Book Lovers. And the reason I say that is because my third song that's gonna come out like a few weeks to a month from now is based on that book, inspired by the characters in that book. So yeah, that's why I choose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What and can you give me a little bit of detail? Like I'm not a big book guy, but what's the book about?
Well, it's about this book agent, and then so it's kind of like they're playing on the trope of like how usually the small town, so the guy breaks up with his selfish girlfriend who lives in the city, and he finds someone in a small town place.
Okay.
And in that book, this book agent gets broken up with, and then she ends up going to a small town herself, and she meets this other, I can't remember now if she's the book agent too, but anyway, they're both in the book business, and then anyway they fall in love, and that's what I liked about it. Like, it's a cute rom-com. I like that the couple is not toxic, because usually when you read a book, people like that the main characters hate each other at first and then they love each other, but this one was just like they just got each other from the beginning, and and they grew to love each other. So anyway, I was inspired by it to write a song.
Okay, that's good, because the moment when you started saying that, I was just thinking like instantly, I'm like Hallmark movie, like that's every Hallmark movie ever. But then you pointed out that usually Hallmark movies is they don't like each other at first, then somehow something brings them together, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like if I met you on the street today, I was just like, man, what a total ass. Don't like her. And then it's like, but Brian, did you know that she has a communications degree? I'd be like, well, we can bond over that. No. and then it goes from there. But that's how Hallmark movies would write it. What's the best piece of advice you ever received? If you say be yourself, I'm gonna be like, you liar. No.
I think the best, I don't remember who, I've been told it many times probably, but it's the fact that you can't control how other people act towards you, but you can control how you react to other people's actions, even if they're hurtful sometimes. So that's a good perspective to have.
Okay, that's a good one. Best piece of advice I ever got was get out. Like, just don't be in here anymore. I'm just like, gotcha. And that's it. But no, I like that one. That one's a little bit more worldly. All right, let's see. What is something you can never seem to finish?
Oh.
I was going to say my sentences, but no.
What is something I can... Games, video games. I always buy a new game and I can not finish it. I buy another one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
How I read that you have a Switch.
Yeah.
What games do you play on the Switch?
Right now I'm playing Persona 5 and Breath of the Wild. Yeah, probably these two.
Are you big on gamer? Like, when you lose, do you get mad, or are you just kind of like, it's just a game, I'm just gonna walk away?
I don't typically lose if I'm playing with like a group of people.
The confidence.
Yeah, like Mario Kart and all this
Do you
stuff.
have any nicknames?
Yeah, Ella or Raph.
Okay, so if I was to say Ella, is it from what I think it's from? Is it from like Frozen?
No.
Oh, okay. Why that one?
Well,
the end of your name?
Yeah, like Raphael. So when I was young, I used to think my name was spelled. No one ever corrected me. I wrote it my whole life, Raphaela, so 2 L's. And then one day I looked at my identity card and it's like, there's only 1 L there. So, but the Ella came with like 2 L's from the original way I used to write it. So yeah.
I don't even think Ella is a character in Frozen. That's just where my mind went, because I was just like, blonde hair. I was just
I never watched it, so
no, neither have I. But I have a niece that like when she was smaller loved Frozen, And I'm sure there's a character in it that's probably similar to that. Someone will come at me in the comments section later and just be like, "You're an idiot. Why didn't you know that?" But I'm just like, man, she kind of does look like the character from Frozen, which is a compliment.
Yeah.
Before people come at me and be like, "How dare he insult her that way?" What are some pet peeves that you have?
Wait, what are pet peeves? I know
Pet
what they
peeve,
are, but now I
yeah.
can't remember.
So like it's things that like they either kind of upset you or like it's like triggers. It triggers you. Like for me, a pet peeve is if I'm working, even though I'm guilty of it anyway, someone has a pen and starts like banging it against the desk like back and forth. It's annoying. Or a pet peeve like when I'm playing Mario Kart and someone blue shells me and I'm about to cross the finish line. That's a pet peeve. I know they want to win too, but I'm just like, dude, I'm so close. Why are you taking this away from me?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Like, do I? I can't really think of anything right now.
This guy, I am your pet peeve from now on. I do not like this guy. He does not entice me at all. He's mean to me.
Yeah. Well, I annoy myself sometimes. I don't know.
No, that's fair. You're your own pet peeve. You're sitting in a room. You're just
I'm a ball of anxiety. So
yeah. I feel like we all are at some point. But that's it. Like you're in a room. You're just like, Ella, man. Like, come on. You didn't even know your name's spelled with one L. What's wrong with you? And it's just like, let it go. It's been 20 years. All right. Let's see what the last one is. Oh, I feel like this one's pretty decent. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I think it's a decent one.
Okay.
Watch your go-to dance move.
I suck at dancing. I don't have a dance move. I'm good at music, but I have no.
Okay, you're more like if I went to see you.
I'll just do like a random. I don't know, just trying to move to the rhythm.
Or like woo.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. So you're more or less saying that if I went to see you at a pub or a bar, it's just you sitting there playing your guitar, and that's good. Okay. That's peace. At least you know your limit, right? Because I feel like some people go outside the limit. Like if someone was like, Bryan, let me see your dance moves, I'd be like, they think I have more than one move? Oh God. So then I just come up with things on the fly and they're like, man, is he okay over there? Like, what's going on? And I just be like, I'm doing great. They'll be like, I'm Chris Brown, I can dance. Or I'm MJ, look at me moonwalk. They'll be like, I can see your feet, you're going nowhere. I'm just like, oh, I thought I was going places.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Raphaela for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening and good night.